He haunts our nightmares, lurking in the shadows of our deepest fears. A hulking figure, masked in human skin, a grotesque visage that sends shivers down our spines. Wielding a chainsaw with terrifying fury, his presence is a symphony of horror and chaos. His name is Leatherface, and he is the iconic villain of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, a name that has become synonymous with terror. Leatherface is not just a monster, he is a symbol of the darkest corners of the human psyche. He is a creation of his environment, shaped by the darkness that surrounded him from birth, molded by the cruelty and isolation of his world. To understand the monster, we must first understand the man, the tormented soul behind the mask. And to understand the man, we must journey back to his beginnings, to a desolate corner of Texas and a house that dripped with secrets as dark as the blood that stained its floors. This house, a place of unspeakable horrors, was the crucible that forged Leatherface, turning an innocent child into a harbinger of death. It is here, amidst the decay and despair, that the true face of madness was born. Leatherface, or Bubba as his family called him, was born into a world devoid of love, compassion, and sanity. His birthplace, a dilapidated farmhouse in the heart of Texas, miles away from any semblance of civilization. The house stood alone, a rotting testament to decay, despair, and utter abandonment. The air hung heavy with the stench of death, a mix of animal carcass and something far more sinister, something unnameable. This was not a home. It was a breeding ground for madness and unspeakable horrors, a place where darkness festered and grew, twisting the minds of those who resided within its warped, haunted walls. If the house was a breeding ground for madness, then the family was the virus that spread it. The walls of this eerie abode echoed with the cries of the tormented, and the very air seemed to throb with a sinister energy. It was a place where nightmares were born, and sanity was a fleeting visitor. Leatherface's family was not a source of love and support, but of fear, violence, and deranged beliefs. They thrived on chaos and cruelty, turning their home into a macabre theater of horror. Each family member played their role in this grotesque play, contributing to the atmosphere of dread that permeated every corner. His cannibalistic family, a grotesque parody of their own, instilled in him a warped sense of right and wrong. They feasted on the flesh of their victims, their twisted rituals binding them together in a bond of blood and terror. This was a family where love was expressed through acts of unspeakable brutality. They were his teachers, his tormentors, and ultimately his only companions in a world that had rejected him from the start. In their eyes, he found a twisted form of acceptance, a place where his monstrous tendencies were not just tolerated, but celebrated. The isolation and madness of his existence were both a curse and a twisted form of comfort.
The domineering grandfather, the sadistic patriarch who ruled through fear. His presence was a constant reminder of the power dynamics within the family, a figure who demanded obedience and instilled terror with just a glance. His influence was the dark thread that held the family together, binding them in a web of fear and control.
The brothers, equally unhinged, participated in the family's gruesome rituals with chilling enthusiasm. They reveled in the violence, their laughter echoing through the halls as they carried out their dark deeds. Each act of brutality was a testament to their loyalty to the family's twisted code, a demonstration of their commitment to the macabre legacy they were upholding. And then there was the hitchhiker, a disturbed individual who had found a home amongst the monsters. His presence added another layer of unpredictability to the already volatile mix, a wild card in a deck stacked with madness. He was a drifter who had found his place in the chaos, a lost soul who had embraced the darkness.
Each member of this twisted family played a part in the dark symphony of horror that defined their existence. Their lives were a series of grotesque acts, each one more horrifying than the last, creating a legacy of terror that would haunt anyone who crossed their path, in shaping Leatherface into the monster he would become. The darkness that enveloped him was not just a product of his own mind, but a reflection of the twisted world he was born into. His transformation was a testament to the power of his family's influence, a chilling reminder of the horrors that can be bred in the shadows of a broken home. Violence begets violence. It is a cycle that perpetuates itself, feeding on the darkness within human souls. Leatherface's family history was a tapestry woven with threads of blood and madness. Each generation added its own dark chapter, a new layer of horror and insanity. Stories of their gruesome exploits echoed through the generations, each tale more disturbing than the last. These were not mere legends, but documented atrocities that left a trail of fear and death. They spoke of a long line of butchers and killers, each more depraved than the last. The tools of their trade, stained with the blood of countless victims, were passed down like sacred relics. These stories weren't just warnings, they were badges of honor, passed down from father to son, a legacy of blood and brutality. Each generation took pride in their dark heritage, seeing it as a testament to their strength and ruthlessness. Leatherface, born into this legacy, had no choice but to embrace it. His hands, calloused and scarred, were a testament to the violent life he was destined to lead. He was raised on tales of murder and mayhem, taught that violence was not just acceptable, but expected. These stories were his bedtime tales, the lessons that shaped his understanding of the world. He was a product of his environment, a monster molded by the sins of his fathers. The photographs of violent acts that adorned the walls of his home served as a constant reminder of his family's dark legacy, a legacy he was bound to continue.